Hello, Mr. Fücks. We're happy you're with us today.
Glad to be here.
My first question. You're the president of Heinrich Böll Foundation. It's a political think tank that promotes the development of democratic civil society worldwide. Could you please tell us more about your efforts and especially your work in Ukraine?
The Böll Foundation is one of the German political foundations affiliated to the Green Party in Germany, but we are independent in our program making. We are funded by government, it's public money, but we are not a government agency. So we understand ourselves as part of the civil society worldwide, promoting civil liberties, human rights, sustainable development, because we are a green political foundation. Ecology plays a major role in our programs. We are very much pro-European, unification as the project of our political generation, overcoming nationalism, promoting international cooperation. And we are very much in favor of democracy building in the former Soviet republics, now independent states. And we had been very sympathetic to the Maidan in Ukraine, the first one and now the last one too. We are running an office here since 6 years with 3 major programs. First, ecological modernization, especially energy transition in Ukraine. As you may know, Germany has quite some experience in changing our energy system, moving to renewable energies, phasing out nuclear and now also coal. We would like to support the modernization of the energy sector in Ukraine too, in this kind of, as we see it, the energy system of the future, very much based on wind and solar and geothermal energies, and a much better degree of energy efficiency than we see it today in Ukraine. There's a huge waste of energy in your both the industrial system and the housing sector. And the second program is focused on women's rights. We are supporting feminist NGOs in Ukraine. And the third one is on urban development, especially the role of citizens as subjects of the urban development. So it's about citizens' participation in urban planning and urban development projects. And the fourth part of our work here is, of course, Ukraine-European and Ukraine-German dialogue. We are trying to influence public opinion in Germany and throughout Europe in favor of Ukraine, and bringing together people from civil society, artists, and also politicians from both sides.
You advocate for civil society participation in the political process. In Ukraine, though, we witnessed the formation of a liberal civil society when society support government in the conditions of war and is willing to give up some of its liberties. How dangerous do you think it is? Is it normal at all in these conditions?
As I understand it, so I'm quite I would say, I'm following the events in Ukraine quite intensively, and I'm here maybe twice a year. So I have a little bit idea of what's then going on, of course, with the information we are getting from our office. And as far as I get it, the civil society in Ukraine is much more advanced than the political system. Most of the political parties still are, I would say, kind of old-fashioned. They still have the habits and the political culture of the past. And the parliament is not, I would say, working like a modern democratic parliament with controlling the government and discussing political alternatives and kind of transparency in policy making. We of course are aware that there's a lot of corruption still going around, and there's this kind of alliance between big business and big politics. So there are, I would say, a lot of remains of the old post-Soviet system, and at the same time there is a very vivid civil society as far as we see it. All these NGOs and then independent think tanks and intellectuals and also part of the media trying to put pressure on the governmental institutions and on the parliament to move on to then proceed in democratic transition. And personally, I would say that especially in a situation of war, it is necessary to have a big deal of transparency and participation of the people. Otherwise, I think there is a danger that people lose trust in politics, and they will lose their belief in a better future of Ukraine. So for me, there's no contradiction between defending Ukraine's independence, also militarily, and democratization. These are two sides of the same.
What are your impressions about the maturity of political process in Ukraine? You mentioned that your foundation is connected with the Greens Party, and it's a common practice in Germany where parties are affiliated with think tanks and which form their political platforms. In Ukraine, we don't see this. Is this prerequisite for a mature political process?
Would not say that you need these kind of political foundations. There are very different models in different countries, but concerning the party system, I think most parties in Ukraine are kind of political enterprises. These are not parties with a kind of deep-rooted political program with clear long and medium term goals, trying to convince the majority of the people to support them. It is more about power broking and getting access to public funds. So I think the party system still is with one leg in the old system and the other leg in the new democratic realities, and we would like very much to see the emergence of new democratic parties which are representing, say, the civil society, especially the ideas of Maidan. We have no favorite party, but of course we are quite sympathetic to the new Democratic Alliance and the Euro-optimists, this group of young pro-European liberal members of Parliament.
Mm-hmm. In April, you authored an article in which you criticized the Minsk agreements. Now we see that Minsk agreement doesn't really work, despite the efforts of Germany's Foreign Minister Frank-Walter Steinmeier. What alternatives do you see to the Minsk process and how it can be changed or made to work?
that in the moment, if I'm realistic in political terms, what can be achieved, I don't see a real chance for a complete new start of the political negotiation process, leaving the Minsk agreement then aside and starting new from the scratch. I think the Minsk agreement is the reference system we have to deal with. This is the political framework agreed by the European Union and the United States, and of course then Russia is trying to promote its interpretation of Minsk. But I think there have to be some clarifications, especially between Ukraine and the European Union, the German and the French then government, according or concerning steps Minsk should be implemented. Yeah, so for us it's the wrong approach to start with autonomy for the Donbass and to start with regional elections in the Donbass. It's the other way around. First, there should be, of course, a lasting and a sustainable ceasefire, the withdrawal of Russian troops and weapons from the Donbass region, and then the establishment of, I would say, a transition administration under international monitoring, which could provide free and fair elections, including pluralism of media and then freedom of speech and all the ingredients you need for democratic elections. So we are trying to convince the political then public in Germany that we need a kind of clarification of then what is Minsk about and how could it be implemented. We are rejecting the idea that, and of course, I see that the Ukraine cannot then offer a kind of Russian protectorate in the Donbass. So we have to stick to the political sovereignty and territorial integrity of then Ukraine. And I'm convinced that there will be no political settlement, no political solution until the Kremlin is ready to recognize the independence of Ukraine and to understand that Ukraine will not return to the Russian world, which is obviously the goal of Putin. Competences, their rights of self-administration. This is different to the Russian concept of regionalization. It's more the German concept of strong local and regional democratic self-government. Giving people the rights to determine and to decide about their everyday life, schooling, the health system, housing, traffic and transport, all this kind of stuff. I think it would be good if it would be more decentralized and if cities and regional governments would become more also financial funds. But of course, this is an ongoing debate about what is the meaning of decentralization. But I think this would be the better alternative to this kind of regionalization, which is part of the Russian strategy of partition of Ukraine.
Thank you. Thank you for your expert advice.